Welcome to Huddle Up,
Brought to you by the Fields Huddle Group.
Jaguars senior writer John Oehser, NFL Network analyst and former Jaguar Bucky Brooks, and senior reporter J.P. Shadrick bring you the latest on your Jacksonville Jaguars. Huddle Up starts right now.
And Huddle Up with Bucky Brooks is brought to you by the Fields Auto Group Jacksonville. See Fields first. Jacksonville's premier luxury auto group. Go to fieldsauto.com. It is Wednesday. It is Huddle Up. J.P. Shadrick with John Oehser. We're at the Hyundai Studios inside the Miller Electric Center. Bucky Brooks is out in Los Angeles. And good afternoon, Bucky. What's up, man?
What's going on, guys? I'm giving you a little different look.
It's a new Bucky Brooks here. It's not
See this. Where are you?
It's not the backdrop of the office. It's not a Jaguars logo. What's the shirt? What are you rolling with today?
No. I just happen to be in my son's room as opposed to like my typical office. I got some things going on in the house, and so I'm just different location.
Well, glad you adjusted for us. It's great to see you. A lot to get to, of course. Phase 3 is here. Organized team activities, and we're closing in on the end of the offseason program. 8 practices, including, I guess, Wednesdays to go in OTAs, and then 3 minicamp practices on the schedule. So not a lot of time left on the field in this offseason. And Johnny, you were out there on Monday.
I was. Can't get around that.
Been a lot of online reviews of some of the practice. What did you see?
I saw a team that was practicing for the first time in shorts and pads and with the new offense and new defense. And I saw a May football practice. And some of the questions afterward were sort of leaning toward as if there had been some tragedy with the offense. And, what I saw that I liked and all I really wanted to see was that, Bucky, the receivers are really fast. I thought Trevor Lawrence's quote about Travis Hunter getting in and out of breaks, that's all I wanted to hear about Travis Hunter. Would that translate? Would that element of his game? Because I think if he can do that, he can get open in the NFL. And if he can get open, he can make catches. He's that kind of playmaker. Brian Thomas Jr. looked to me like a guy who, was great as a rookie, and now he's in the NFL, man. I mean, now he knows how to get open. Now he's impressive. He looks like he's going to be dominant moving forward. And De'Ami Brown looked really fast. So all I cared about was sort of seeing some traits because that's all you look for. If you're trying to evaluate on this, you're missing the boat.
Yeah, I think some things that you're looking for when you first see them in OTAs. One, you got a new coaching staff. So you're trying to get a feel for how the team looks. As a casual, you're trying to say, man, do they look organized and structured? Does it appear to be that this is a group that is paying attention to detail? Those things just from a structural standpoint. New coaching staff, bunch of young coaches trying to figure it out. So, how does that look? Then you're beginning to assess the overall feel of the team. Do you like the speed, the athleticism? How do they look physically? Are they big? Do they appear to be an opposing type team compared to in the past? And then you're beginning to look at how they're going through what they're being asked to do. So people have really spent a lot of time talking about the wide receivers and how fast they are. They're getting in and out of the cuts and all of that. You're just trying to make sure that there aren't any glaring red flags that pop up during this part of the off season. We can talk about, it's a scripted practice and those things, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't, but you just want to make sure that doing these things that don't matter, we at least look like we know what we're doing, and we're doing it very, very fast.
Yeah, and I think what is annually forgotten from fans is this is when they practice. I mean,
right.
And they are putting in a new system where yes, they have done individual work and some stuff on the field in phase 1 and phase 2, but this week is the first time that these guys have run this offense anything close to live. And this is the teaching time. If you're not teaching right now, when are you teaching? Because there's no time to teach in training camp anymore. I mean, I'm exaggerating that, but to a point, you've got to sort of be ready to go because you're not working like you used to in training camp. So this is absolutely designed to teach and to be a classroom. And I'm not sure you want a Trevor at the end of OTAs to have completed 85% with like one interception, because then he's probably checking down every play.
Right.
So
Bayshul Tootin's getting a lot of receptions.
we've seen that before around here.
Right.
We have seen that, and Johnny made a great point. Like, we have new systems going in on both sides of the ball. The special teams have stayed the same because he remained as the coordinator. But offensively, yeah, you are trying to learn something that's completely different than the previous system. The coach is also learning. It's one thing to draw these things up on paper. It's another thing to begin to see how what they think the team is going to be able to do is executed by the players, and do you have to tweak and adapt to the personnel that you have, particularly when it comes to Trevor Lawrence. All of those things are being played out in real time, and depending upon how the coaching staff elects to utilize this process where you're pushing the envelope, you're trying to put as much in as you can to see how the players learn and retain, while also doing, they won't admit this, some experimentation. Hey, let's see what these concepts look like on the grass against this defense. Let's get this on tape so we can figure out, do we like this? Do we like it enough to install it in training camp and potentially use it during the season? Or we put it on tape and then that we've seen it, it doesn't look as good on the grass as it did on the whiteboard. All of those things are going into play, while also teaching a bunch of players new fundamentals and new techniques that are scheme specific, so they can execute the jobs when it comes to it. There's a lot of stuff going on, and so we shouldn't overreact to anything that we see. We'll have plenty of time to make assessments and assertions once we get into training camp, preseason games in the first part of the season.
Huddle up with Bucky Brooks. Speaking of overreaction, the ozone is a place where people overreact sometimes.
Yes, it is.
It's daily on Jaguars.com, question and answer. If you've never heard of John Ogier, that's what he does. So I think it was today. I think it was Wednesday. Somebody asked about Tootin fumbling a football.
Well, yes, they did. And that I was actually going to bring up because I guess he's fumbled a little in the past in college. I wouldn't say I'm worried about it, but fumbling on his first snap of OTAs, you don't want to be that guy. So I'd be a little more concerned about a fumble in OTAs and an interception in OTAs. And by concerned, I mean maybe a 2 on a scale of 100, right? I mean, but you don't want that to be a thing. So I'm not worried about that, but if you continue to see fumbles in practice over time, then you do worry about it being a thing. But I'm going to assume that's not what this is.
Right.
So
until it proves otherwise.
Right.
Yeah, it's one of those things like you want to make sure the ball security is there, and it's only going to get, if you're putting the ball on the ground now, you want to make the player aware of it, because coming from college to the pros, one of the biggest difference is how defenders go hunt the ball in the NFL game. It is a priority. Everyone talks about it, the peanut punch and the way they just rake at it. You have to be tight with the ball, making sure it's high and tight, and then you got to be aware of it, like front of mind in traffic, that they're always going for it. But it's not something that you should be overly concerned. It's a coaching point. It's a teaching point. You can't expect a player to play like a pro until they get into the pros. And part of this part of the offseason is the transition from how you played in college to how you expected to play as a pro. And so there are going to be some bumps along the way and some things that everybody has to learn, particularly with a new coaching staff coming over, implementing their own culture, structure, expectations, and standards.
I'll tell you what I saw on Monday that was really exciting and intriguing was I mentioned him at the top, Brian Thomas Jr. Maybe all the receivers apply to this, but really him. It looks to me like for the first time in a long time, Justin could have been it, and he never worked out here, Blackman. Mm-hmm. But Brian Thomas Jr. looks like a guy who is always going to be open. And I'm exaggerating that, but you know how when you watch Cincinnati, Jamar Chase, mm-hmm. They can feed that guy the ball, and a lot of trust there. It'll be unusual if they can't go to him. Travis Hunter looks like a guy who's going to be open a lot, and I think they've got 3 or 4 guys. GM a long time ago told me for a great quarterback, you need 4 guys in the offensive system who you trust can beat a single coverage and beat it badly, that you can't leave single covered. It looks like they're getting pretty close to that here, where if you leave a BTJ single covered, you're going to lose. It looks like Travis Hunter can be that guy. I think De'Ami Brown looks like he's got ways to beat you. So that gets real interesting because that's hard to get that high-level combination. And I kind of think Travis Etienne might fit in there, Bucky. I mean, the skill guys on this offense have gotten really interesting with the addition of Hunter and Brown.
Yeah, and one of the things that happens if you are a team that wants to create explosive plays, speed is the quickest way to be able to accomplish that. Because when you have a fast team, you can generate those explosives in a few different ways. One, you can throw it over the top of the defense. Two, you can throw it on crossing routes and they can catch and run past everybody. Three, the space that is created by the threats on the perimeter can create opportunities for the running game to pop because now the defense is spread out. What it appears that the Jaguars have made a concerted effort to get faster and more explosive. And ultimately, that's going to make the game easier for Trevor Lawrence. When you are committed to Trevor Lawrence like the Jaguars are, and you're paying him the amount of money that you're paying him, everything is really about making him comfortable, making the game easy for him so that his natural talents can come through. So it's the supporting staff, the supporting cast, it's the scheme. Everything is designed to make sure that 16 is able to elevate his game. And in a quarterback-driven league, particularly in the AFC where the quarterbacks are locked and loaded and stacked, we have to find a way to get Trevor Lawrence to play at an elite level. And some of that might be through the scheming and the personnel that has been put in place.
The schedule is finally here. You don't want to miss the matchups this season. Whether you want to become a season ticket member, catch 3 or more games with Bundle at the Bank, or experience the season with a Prowl Pass, there's a plan for every fan.
I'm sure there is.
Secure your tickets now. Jaguars.com/tickets. Or call 904-633-2000. That's John Oehser. I'm JP Shadrick. Bucky Brooks with us in Los Angeles. Yeah, well, schedule's out, Bucky, since we talked. What do you think? You like
it? Look, I like it. I won't go crazy and be like, oh, it's easy, it's hard, or whatever. It is what it is. I think the main thing that you're looking for very, very early is, can this team get out to a fast start? It's been proven, like research will tell you, that the first quarter of the season ultimately can determine whether you're going to be a playoff team or not. And if you can race out to the gate to a 3-1 or a 4-0 start, more than likely you're going to be in the postseason. When I look at the opening few games, like there's an opportunity if the Jaguars play well to put themselves in a position to be in the hunt when it matters down the stretch. But it's going to take them playing well. And the thing about schedules, we never know what teams are going to be like, but we know, look, man, the Panthers coming out the gate, then the Bengals. It's going to be interesting playing them in the home opener with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and those guys. And then you got some interesting games coming on the pipe with a Monday night game in Kansas City at home. I mean, there's some tough games, but look, you can't fear who's on the slate. You got to go out and play. And so hopefully we hit the ground running, but we've got to play well out the gate.
Yeah, it's an interesting schedule because it can be looked at multiple ways. I think it's a tough 5 out of the box and even a tough 7 out of the box.
Yeah, before the bye week, tough.
Yeah, and you have Carolina, which had a losing record last year, and then your only team out of the next 7 with a losing record last year was San Fran, and they just don't feel like – they sort of feel like Cincinnati to me. Like even if they have a tough season, you feel like with what they are, they're not going to be bad coming out of the gate the next year. So I think it's tough. And then at the same time, you have 5 out of those 7 are home games. So this franchise, the people running it, believe that they're a lot better than they were last year. So if you're better than you were last year, then you're about a 500 team, or maybe better. And if you're that level team, then you're supposed to go take advantage of home games and sort of stay afloat through this tough spot and be ready to compete when it gets, quote, more manageable at the end. So I guess that's kind of a long-winded way of saying the most obvious thing was that if the Jaguars are good, this is a pretty manageable schedule.
Yeah.
If they're giving away games at the end like they were last year, then you've got 5 or 6, 7 teams that all look like they're the kind of team that can take it from you if you give it away. There's some teams that can't. But all these teams look good enough that, you've got to play well. But if they're good, they're okay. So, right? But I do think that's it. There's no gimmies early. But if you're going to make the playoffs, you got to win more than just your gimmies.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you got to win your games. You got to come out of it. And then really, the important part for me is funny. Like, we finish with the same slate of teams that we always finish with. We always kind of end up with Tennessee and Indianapolis in some kind of order. The main thing that you want to do year one, new program, you want to put yourself in a position where when you get into December, you have a reasonable opportunity to be able to get into the postseason, whatever that looks like. You want to be playing your best ball heading into December. New regime, new thing, as they're ironing things out, you just don't want to fall off the grid. And then you would like to build some momentum. So there's some opportunities for this team to build momentum down the stretch. But I'll say this, particularly coming off last year, and even though the roster has been flipped, a lot of it is going to be, how is this team going to handle the storm that ultimately comes for every team? If they have a bad stretch where they lose 2 games in a row, potentially 3 games in a row, do they have the wherewithal to navigate their way through it and to get back into the race? Last year we saw when they fell off the wagon, they couldn't get up, and the same could be said the previous year. Does this team, over the course of training camp and the early part of the season, can they develop enough chemistry, enough grit and resilience to be able to handle the tough moments that happen for every team, whether you're a champion or not, is coming? How do we navigate through it? That will be the determining factor on how good we will be this season.
And it's Liam Cohen's first head coaching gig. If he's going to have to manage and handle some of this, we've seen Doug Peterson, right, try to do that here, and he's been through the battles before in the NFL. Not his first job here. But Liam's going to have to learn how to do that as well, John.
Yeah, and I think that's really when you talk about culture change and changing the building and all that stuff, I think that's what it is. There was something that happened in 23 when they were 8-3 and Trevor and Christian Kirk got hurt. And I hate to always go back to that, but that was just the theme. And something happened where it felt to me like the team lost belief. They were a team that believed in itself into that 8-3 start where they were winning games just gutty, right? And I thought, and I wrote it often, I thought this was a team that sort of knows how to win. It's a tough, kind of thing. That all of a sudden just went away seemingly in like one night. And it never quite came back last year. Now, I get everything's new, but we're still talking about the Jaguars, and there's players who went through that.
They were all there.
How much does that feeling, and I think we all felt it watching it, where in the last, 21, 22 games, there was always an, here we go again. We're like, halfway through the third quarter, it's like, well, I can start writing. I mean, so the culture change to me is how much do these players, like Bucky said, when something bad happens, how much do they believe that we are no longer what we were? And we'll find that out in week 2 or 3, or at some point we'll find out the answer to that question. You don't find it out at 12:30 on May
21st,
19th.
Right.
So
it's funny, John, because I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say I'm really impacted by last year, because I felt like last year we heard all of the things, and I don't want to live in the past, but I think it's really telling, because all summer, all training camp, we heard about it's the tougher, it's the grittier team. This is the hardest training camp that we've ever had.
They were going to attack
other teams.
Or they were going to attack.
Attack on defense.
Other teams have talked about how hard the training camp was, et cetera, et cetera. And then at the first moment of adversity, the Miami game, we fall apart and we never put it back together. And so it's not the words, it's the actions. And look, it's unfair to pin this on Liam Cohen and those guys to clean up the messes, but
that's the job. Right.
A lot of what we will see and observe is, how does he prepare this team for for the hard moments that are going to happen.
Yeah, and I think
Because
you'll
that will
see.
determine. Yeah, that'll determine if we're able to get to the other side and be the team that we all want to see this team be.
Yeah, not to belabor the point, but Travis's fumble week 1.
I was going to say that's what started it.
And
I mean, they still had the
that's it.
lead after
But-
that hurricane. They still had the lead, but they couldn't finish the game.
my point with that being, in the next 3 or 4 weeks, Travis got a lot of questions, handled it well, a lot of blame from people. Oh, if he hadn't fumbled, they lose. Well, to me, that was not it. I mean, yes, Travis can't fumble there, but that loss wasn't on him. You had a lead. It was indicative. What happens this year when that happens? When there's a fumble, inevitably, what does the defense do, or vice versa? And
Do they cover the deep over by safety?
well,
On the next play.
or still go win the darn game, even if those two events happen.
Right.
Where you don't feel deflated. You'll know on the sidelines, Bucky, more than I will in the press box, but I'll be a lot more comfortable than you.
Yeah, all of it will matter. Like I believe that's the part that you have to work through. You got to build up the mentality. You have to navigate through it. I think it helps sometimes when you flip the roster like you flip, because a lot of those guys don't have the residual of what took place like the previous couple years when it comes to losing. Because when you lose, it all snowballs, it all compounds and does those things. But here's what I say, and I don't want to continue to link this team to the Rams, but I will say we saw the Rams in the last 2 years start out 1-4, and they've been able to bounce back. Now, Liam was with Tampa last year, but Gladstone certainly was there, and he certainly understands the nature and how the team and the conversations that took place to help the team get out of it. To me, that would be the biggest part of training camp. When we're looking at training camp and we're watching practice, are the coaches deliberately creating adverse situations so the team can navigate their way through it, and how they get out of that, and can they build confidence with those things? How does Trevor Lawrence react after throwing an interception in practice or in preseason? What does the team react to? We have to teach the team how to work through those things. And look, ultimately, how well they learn those lessons in training camp will help them when they get to the regular season.
I think one storyline here that, again, we won't know until the season, but, I do think there's a possibility that the rookies, particularly Travis Hunter, him being I think he will quickly become one of the identity pieces on this team, and maybe even come to define the team just because of his personality. And I sort of wonder, Bucky, this is a kid who's used to success. He's not sort of rooted in the past here. And the fact that Gladstone sort of likes and the team is encouraging young players to play, if that could help in, hey, we believe we're good. We don't have a frame of reference for not being good. The young kids, the children could lead them, if you will, in terms of the spirit, in terms of the makeup of the team. I think it could be a positive. I usually, and JP's laughing at me because he knows I hate rookies. But
I was going to say,
You hate rookies?
there's a but
Who
coming.
hates rookies?
However,
oh, they can't lead. They're just kids. They don't know what they're doing. But in this case, if you're leaning into that, as James Gladstone likes to say, if you're leaning into the youth, they could help you change the culture if you have success early, I think. And yes, I do dislike rookies.
But that is a big part of the thing. That's why when we talk about, like, and it's funny, it's a joke in terms of intangibly rich, but that is a big reason why when you're scouting players and you're selecting players, you want them to come from winning programs, because winning is a big part of their DNA. They also understand the sacrifice that's necessary to win. You want people who, when they step onto the field, winning is important to them and they're willing to do whatever it takes to win. That's the best way and the quickest way to flip the program. You get a bunch of winners together, you give them a solid plan, and then you let them go do what they've always done, which is win.
well, the Dailies Play schedule for the spring and the summer is rolling along. Coming up May 31st, Kodak Black is in for T-Pain. June 2nd, Styx, Kevin Cronin, Don Felder. Old Dominion, June 6th. Later in the summer, 2 nights of Shania Twain, July 29th and 30th. They've added a Rob Thomas show, August 2nd as well. Shania's 59 years old. She can still bring the heat, Bucky. That's for sure.
That's okay. Like that, I mean, like in my demographic, I'm okay with that.
Big Time Rush rolling in here too, JP.
Oh,
Big Time Rush.
Don't leave them out.
Yeah,
That's July 15th.
It's I still give my son major grief for watching Big Time Rush when he was a kid.
Tickets for him if he wants to go at
right.
dailiesplace.com and get the show information about the spring and summer there. We've got Happy Hour Radio tomorrow at 4. Jeff Lageman will be in. Austin Lane scheduled to come in again as well.
The A-Train.
That's cool.
Austin Lane.
We'll talk some ball.
Yeah.
A-Train. I like that. That's a nice little nickname, the A-Train.
The A-Train. Is that taken? Somebody else is the A-Train, aren't they?
I mean,
Yeah, but if your name starts with an A, you're always sort of the A-Train.
Running back from Michigan years ago, but come on, we're beyond that. Anthony Thomas, I think was his name. We're good. We can snatch that nickname away from him.
What was your nickname, Bucky?
Bucky.
That's it.
Buck.
That's the one.
That's the nickname. That. Sorry, I hate to disappoint, but yeah, that was the nickname. That's what it is.
Okay,
that is what it is.
Well, let's do it again next week, fellas.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. Like more OTAs.
Are you coming down, Bucky? You should come down.
I am. I'm coming down next week. I'm
really
watching a couple. I'm gonna take in a couple OTA practices. I'm gonna be there with my notebook, charting everything, making sure that I know what's going on.
Putting up highlight clips on X
and you can tell me next week definitively whether the defense is ahead of the offense.
I 100% can tell you right now. I'm reluctant to jump all in on the defense just because of after last year. I have PTSD with the tack and all the other stuff. So I'm gonna have to take a little more conservative take.
That's fair.
This year.
That's fair. It's time to dial it back a bit.
Yeah, good time to do that.
Yeah.
All right, Bucky.
Expectations a little bit. Yeah.
Safe travels. If we don't see you before next week.
It should be fun.
All right,
Bucky Brooks out of here. John Ozier. I'm JP Shadrick. Our thanks to Brent Reber, Joe Fortunato, and thanks to you for watching and listening to Huddle Up.